at the end of the feather and fan project, and um, obviously you can see this is a slightly different project. I made a couple changes, and so here I am with this one. I assume that this is the fan part. These are the feather parts on the side, a little more visible, bigger piece. Okay, so anyway, before I bind off this piece to show you a different bind off, I just want to go over some of the abbreviations or notations you're going to see on the pattern. And pretty much these are the most frequent and important notations on the pattern. Once you have, you know these, you can pretty much read a great deal of patterns. Okay, so this is the knit, and you know basically what the knit stitch looks like. Okay, knit stitch. Okay, so the P is for purl stitch, and you know what the purl stitch looks like. You bring it to the front, purl. Okay, so that's the purl stitch. And then the YO is for yarn over, which you did with the feather and fan pattern. And it's just bringing the yarn to the front, bringing it over top of there, and not doing any processing to the stitch after you've wrapped it on, just continuing on your merry way. Okay, now, then there's the slip one stitch, the S1. And slip one stitches are a lot of times are done on the ends of a piece to keep the edges from curling. So basically, the pattern will tell you whether you're slipping knit-wise, which means you stick it in just like you're going to knit, pop it off, don't do anything else to it. Or the pattern will tell you if you're slipping purl-wise, which is stick the needle on the front, just like you're going to purl, pop it off, no big problem. So it's just like you're going to purl there. And that's a slip stitch. Okay, now next are two of my favorite stitches, slip, slip, knit, and knit two together. And these are what's called decreasing stitches. And when you did this pattern, you decreased or took away 3 stitches by knitting 3 of them together. And then you added yarn over, which made the pattern large again. So this is a series of decreases and increases, and you can see how the pattern is shaped by that. So with the slip, slip, knit decrease, you're supposed to, and it'll tell you slip one knitwise or whatever. So you slip these knitwise. Okay, and that puts a twist in them. Then you stick them back on the needle, and you knit the 2 of them together. Now, for me, I have found that instead of slipping them off like that and then putting them back on, a lot of times I can achieve almost the same look by knitting them through the back stitch. Now, they say your mileage may vary, so just keep that in mind. And the knit 2 together is what you did here on this part, and you simply stick 2 of them together and knit them. So, slip, slip, knit, knit 2 together. And you'll see some patterns where you're knitting 3 together, knitting 4 together, but that's basically how that works. Just remember that if you're knitting more than 2, you really kind of have to leave yourself some room down here to get in between there. When you slip 2 together and you knit 2 together, what it does is those decreases make a V shape. One leans in one direction, knit 2 together. One leans in the other direction, slip, slip, knit. And so the 2 decreases, the 2 decreases are leaning to opposite sides, and it creates really neat V's in patterns. It helps to shape them. Okay. Okay, now, then of course, there's CO. The CO is the cast on, and that's what we did at the very beginning. There's a couple different types of cast on, and sometimes it'll tell you which cast on they want you to use. And the BO is bind off, and that's what we're going to do next. So in this pattern, you are knitting 2 rows in a garter stitch. So you knit across, turn it around, knit across that one. Okay. And then you're going to bind off. And since I showed you the normal bind off in the previous video, I want to show you the bind off for the Jenny Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off. They'll give you a nice loose bind off. Let me have a look. Okay, so here's what's unique about the Jenny bind off. Hopefully, make sure you can see this real clear. Here's what's unique for the Jenny bind off. First stitch you knit, just nice and plain knit stitch. The second stitch you wrap the yarn around like a yarn over, and I believe for the knit stitch you wrap it clockwise. For the purl stitch you wrap it counterclockwise. But I find I have a really hard time knitting through this loop when I do it that way, so I just always do regular yarn overs. You knit, then you slide the needle between the yarn over stitch and your previous stitch, and you bring them over top of. Okay, and this is a slip one. This is a pass the knit stitch over the stitch. This is a pass over. I probably should have wrote that down for you. Pass over, so we'll sometimes say P-O. Okay, so you'll see that sometimes it's P-S-S-O, and that's a kind of a different thing, but this is a passover. So what you would do is you would yarn over for the next one, knit one, slip the stitches, pass the stitches over top of the knit stitch. Okay, so we got a yarn over, knit one, pass the stitches over. Okay, and that's how you process the stretchy bind off. And look how stretchy it is compared to the really tight bind off I have down here. Now normally you want your bind offs to match. Oh, sorry about that. Normally you want your bind offs to match, but since I'm using this to illustrate the bind off, I'm just doing the stretchy one. It's not at all going to match what's going on down here. So I'm in the middle of making cards, so I kind of have junk everywhere. But I just want you to see, this is the mohair, and I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure you know that mohair is Angora goat, but just in case you didn't know, mohair is Angora goat. So this is the mohair one. This is from Handspun Yarn. This is the mohair one I did with the feather and fan, and this is what it looks like right here as the pattern that I described on the video, where there are 2 repeats of the feather and fan. I'm going to do one with Angora rabbit, and I'm just really in love with this pattern. This is going to be one of my go-to patterns for some time. Here we go.